Hello everyone and welcome to 1v1 with Boss Rush Games. I'm your host, Celeste Roberts. Today I have the pleasure of interviewing Andy Barney, creator of Zeldom, a Legend of Zelda theory and lore YouTube channel, and a contributing writer for Another Zelda podcast, Vlogs. Hey Andy, thank you so much for joining me on this Sunday morning afternoon.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, you've been doing a lot of work, and I'm really curious to learn more about your process, your history with Zelda, everything, and I think a lot of listeners would be very interested as well.
Okay, well, to start about me and how I got into Zelda. Well, before I get into all my stuff about Zelda in there, I'll just say, I'm a 20-year-old engineering student. I started getting into the Zelda franchise when I was about in the 8th grade. I would always be over at a friend's house, and I would see them talking about either playing or discussing with their brothers about Zelda while we were playing other games. So I just figured, you know what, I'm going to try to get a Zelda game myself. So I bought Skyward Sword for the Wii. Now, initially, I saw my friend playing what I thought was Twilight Princess, but it ended up being Link's crossbow training, which now we don't talk about that. But anyway, I digress. But yeah, Skyward Sword, pretty much made me a Zelda fan right there. Just the beautiful music, story. So of course I bought Wind Waker for the GameCube and Twilight Princess after that. Now Twilight Princess, I played through that one quite a bit. I think I binged it during a Thanksgiving break one time, and I didn't quite finish it. And I came back to it the next year, and of course I just had to restart it. And Wind Waker, I don't know. Wind Waker was honestly, I wouldn't say it's kind of my first letdown of a Zelda game, but it's just the first one I stopped playing for quite a while and just never really came back to until just recently when I started Zeldom, which I'll get into in just a second, and kind of forced myself to play through it again just so I could have that completionist mindset right there.
Yeah.
But anyway, to get into Zeldom, I started listening to Another Zelda podcast, as Celeste said right here, while I was at work for my new job during school. And just listening to everyone talking about Zelda, it kind of made me have all these theories pop into my head. And I just felt like I had to talk about something. So, of course, when COVID hit, I temporarily lost my job for about a month. And so I got with my friend who helped me start the channel for about a month. And we put together our first 2 videos on our YouTube channel, Zeldom. And it went pretty slow for the first few months, but in October, after I made one rather far-fetched theory just for fun, that was literally just based on one idea, but everyone seemed to loved it, and so did the YouTube algorithm. So the channel just picked up over the last couple months, and now I'm at about 4,000 subscribers. But yeah, so what I just do on that channel now is I mainly just just Legend of Zelda theories, and I try to do some lore analysis. My second most popular video is a Link's love interests, and I'm trying to go do a series on that for every game, or every incarnation of Link. And I always get carried away with those. Each one of these gets to be very long. The one I'm editing right now is about Breath of the Wild and Age of Calamity, and it's probably going to be nearly an hour. That's kind of a long introduction, and me going all over the place, but...
No, that was perfect. I loved it. Thank you for letting people know your background. Now, Zelda, of course, seems to be, should I say it is your favorite video game series or one of your favorite video game series?
I'd say it would have to be my favorite series, because I have a handful of other games that I genuinely enjoy. Growing up, as a younger kid, I never really had Zelda. The only Zelda game I had was probably when I was maybe 9 years old or something. Later on, when I was in elementary school, I think I had Spirit Tracks for the DS, but that was before I was even aware that Zelda was a franchise. I remember playing through that, and it took me quite a while to beat it, especially some of those later dungeons where it got to be pretty difficult. But I do remember being disappointed, realizing that after you beat the game, you just go back to where you were before you defeated the final boss, which kind of was a letdown for me. But now that I'm a Zelda fan, I know that's pretty much every game.
Oh, awesome. So, what are some of your earliest memories of video games in general?
Whew.
Taking you way
Well,
back.
yeah, going way back here. Well, so probably when I was 5 years old. I guess the GameCube was probably yeah, the GameCube was probably later on in its life. But when my parents bought me a GameCube for Christmas, because I know my brother, he was a toddler and I was probably 5, 6 years old at the time. Um, I think my very first video game on the GameCube, which was my first console, was Lego Star Wars. So
Wow.
that pretty much got me into like the Star Wars series later on. I'm not a mega Star Wars nerd or anything, but I'm just a mild fan of it. But that also led me into getting a DS. I remember I also had another childhood friend at the time who would always bring over his Nintendo DS, and I would always be a little bit jealous. So he would basically, since I didn't have one, we couldn't do any of the multiplayer wireless linking. So he would just like pass it off to me, and he would like take turns with me playing Pokemon. So eventually, my parents bought me my own DS, and we would have little competitions. And every time my friend would come over, we would have little Pokemon battles through Pokemon Diamond and Pearl.
Wow.
So those are probably my earliest memories of video games itself. And I think later through elementary school, I got other games on the GameCube. I didn't have a Wii until I was probably like 10 years old, maybe. I don't know the exact age. Sometime late elementary school, probably sixth grade and middle school at the latest. Something like that.
So, have you ever had a chance to play some older systems?
Yes. Well, I never had a Nintendo 64 or anything beyond that. I know my mom growing up, she had an Atari, so she always said how she wanted to get an Atari for us. But I mean, that never happened. But I have played some of the classic NES and SNES games through ports. But no, I don't own some of the original consoles. I'm not one of like the mega collector gamers. I would love to have some of those shells where I just have some of the old consoles for display, but I don't have the money for that as a student. So
Oh, who has the time either? That's a
yeah.
lot of hunting. Have you ever watched, I think it was on Netflix, there was this person who was hunting for the rarest NES games.
No, I didn't realize that was a show, but that sounds like
God,
a
God help me, I do not remember the name of it, but it was just fascinating. He went to these people's houses to try to bargain with them about the games he was looking for. Some of these games I had never even heard of, but just to see those collections like you were talking about, I was blown away. I could not imagine. Okay, how many thousands, if not millions of dollars is
yeah,
just right here.
yeah, this sounds like some kind of like one of those thrifting shows, but with Nintendo games. Like I didn't realize that was a thing.
Oh yeah, there are some hardcore collectors. Oh man.
Yeah, I thought some of my stuff was expensive because I know I have the collector's edition, Zelda collector's edition for GameCube,
Oh
which
yeah.
came out right before the release of Wind Waker, I believe. So this I think the disc came out in 2001 and Wind Waker came out 2002. Or maybe this disc came out early 2002 because Wind Waker came out I think later on in the year.
Gosh, that
Actually, I believe it just as of this recording, Wind Waker's anniversary was yesterday. I
yeah,
think.
it was
Yeah.
around this time. It was I think it's like 18, 17, 18 years old.
Yeah, it was either yesterday or a couple days ago. Time's flying right now. It's hard to.
Oh, you're not kidding. How you were saying,
Yeah.
I can't remember the exact year or age. I'm there with you. I don't remember. Everything's a blur.
Yeah.
Well, what are some of your other hobbies? Because I've seen you post videos of yourself playing piano.
Oh yeah. So around the same time I got that GameCube, I started taking piano lessons, and that was actually really enjoyable for me too, growing up, because my uncle was always my piano teacher, and he's taught my other siblings and even some of my cousins. But where do I start with that? Yeah, so my uncle, he has like a master's degree in like music education, all that stuff, but he's just like a freelancer piano teacher. He doesn't work for any organization. He kind of just does his own thing because he loves it, and I personally think that makes the him an even better teacher. And I'm just gonna have to throw it out there. I don't think I have any natural musical talent. I've just been taking, well, I took piano lessons since I was 5 years old, all the way through high school. I don't take them anymore, but I still play for fun every now and then. But so then, yeah, early this year I started practicing a lot more Zelda themes, just since I've been playing for fun. After I brought Breath of the Wild, I really wanted to start practicing some more because I know I'm trying to practice some of the Champions themes from Breath of the Wild currently. I know there's a bunch of other Zelda musicians out there. I know there's one named Brock Hewitt. He works with a Zelda animator on YouTube called Major Link, and he he's his own musician. He does like film style music, but it's more like a symphonic or like even I would even go as far as say gospel style music because I know he's a very religious man. And yeah, he just makes the most beautiful like piano and orchestral pieces like I've ever heard. I think he should be a lot more popular than he is, but he wrote this one called A Timeless Lullaby for this one Ocarina of Time animation. And for anyone who hasn't heard it, you need to go pull up that song because that I went through and I actually transcribed my own sheet music for that because I'm not someone who can just play stuff by ear. I don't have that kind of skill, so I just listened to it on repeat and just note by note wrote it out on my own sheet music. So to full disclaimer, I don't sell the music or anything. Like I just wrote it for my personal use. Just throwing that out there.
That's awesome. That is talent too, though, to transcribe music like that.
Because, well, I shouldn't say I transcribed it. It's more of he had a Synthesia tutorial. Like a lot of people have requested he do shoot music, but I think it's just for legal reasons since it was his own arrangement of a Nintendo-owned piece of music. I don't think he could publish his own sheet music. Maybe he could, but he would have to go get some legal rights for that. I don't know the exact reasons, but he only had a Synthesia tutorial up on YouTube, so I used that basically just translating the sheet music. So don't give me too much credit for that.
That's still awesome, though. I think it's really important to have these creative endeavors like you pursue in addition to going to school, working, going about life. It's really important to have some kind of outlet where you can express yourself.
Oh yeah, especially because I'm also an extreme introvert as well. So I feel like doing Zeldom like it helps me like be able to just get used to speaking and because I'm not someone who is naturally a good speaker. I stutter over myself constantly. I have trouble turning my thoughts into words. Usually unless I carefully think out what I'm about to say, I just stutter and blurt out nonsense. So that's why when I do Zeldom, like I always have to have a script right in front of me, word for word reading down, and even then I still have to half my audio is still just me stuttering, which I have to cut out here and there. But yeah, it's a good learning experience and a good outlet, especially for while being in school and working. So it keeps me busy, but it's a lot of fun because yeah.
I
I don't know
love
what else to say.
videos. I love them. They're very professionally made, Andy. I love that you prepare and put so much work into these videos. You're writing these scripts and your delivery is very articulate. It's very clear. I know you said you have to do some editing, but the final products are always so smooth. They have great transitions. So don't sell yourself short. You're doing a great job.
I appreciate that because I've had a little bit of experience doing video editing in the past. So now through middle school, I was in Boy Scouts, and we decided to make a little movie, which it was a disaster. Let's just say that. It was meant to be like a comedy horror type thing, but it was just us goofing around, and we ended up just throwing the entire movie except for one 5-second scene into the deleted scene section of the DVD I made. But that was some good experience for me, learning how to use professional software. Because I don't use like Adobe Premiere. Or any of the most popular ones. I use Cyberlink Power Director, which it's a pretty powerful software. And don't get me wrong, like you can do a lot of professional stuff with it. I just think it has its bugs here and there. I've had issues on my hardware with it crashing. I'm also too lazy to like figure out and go with the IT to figure out why it's sometimes messing. Like sometimes just randomly crashes on me. But so I know it's not a problem with my hardware. My computer, I built it myself. I put way more into it than I actually needed. That's what happens when you're 15-year-old getting your first job. You just kind of blow your first summer paycheck.
Yeah,
I probably could have built this with similar specs too for probably like $300 less, but it's whatever.
well, I mean, it's exciting. I think everybody can relate to that. It's when you have fun money, because as you get older and bills start happening, the fun money becomes more savings and
Oh
investing
yeah,
money.
especially being a younger male, having to pay for the auto insurance. Like,
Yeah.
because my old car through high school, that was my senior year of high school. That car was in the shop probably 4 or 5 times in that one winter.
No way.
Yeah,
Like accidents?
no, not accidents. It just had a smoking addiction. Like my engine would just start randomly smoking and overheating.
Oh my God.
Yeah, like there was one time I could literally see smoke coming out of the side while I was driving to my swim practice at 6 o'clock in the morning. So I had to just pull over on the road, call my coach and my dad, and tell him like, "Hey, my car is dying right now."
Oh my
And
God.
yeah, and I'm not sure why it was having so many more issues after that, because it was pretty much always the same issue. Like it would work fine for a few weeks, then something would pop, then another radiator hose would pop off or something. So and then I'd have my radiator fluid leak out, which would cause it to overheat again. I don't know why that was happening. Because after like the third or fourth time it came in, our mechanic just stopped charging us. It would sometimes take him a week to get parts and repair it, but he would just not charge us. So I'm probably my conclusion is he probably messed something up the first time, but that's why we have the mechanic, because he's a real trustworthy guy. Like if he thinks he makes a mistake, he's not going to charge you for it. So
Man of integrity.
yeah, so that's why we keep going back to him. But yeah, that now luckily for college I have my dad's former car, which is I think a 2013 Honda Civic, so super reliable. I just need full coverage on it, because if I lose that, I am screwed, because I have to commute. I had like a 50-minute drive to my college campus.
Oh wow.
So yeah, so that plus working, and now with Zeldom, it's a pretty busy schedule, but pretty much Zeldom just replaces most of my video game time now. I know back in July I started a playthrough of Majora's Mask. I'm almost done with it, but I'm still stuck in the iconic canon region. So
Oh yeah.
it's been almost 6 months. Still haven't beaten the game, this is by far my longest Zelda playthrough. It's been over a month since I touched it again, but just with the release of the Age of Calamity game and working on my videos, it's just haven't gotten time to it. But I love Majora's Mask. It's probably one of my favorite older Zelda games.
It's funny that you bring that up, because before we started recording this, I was in the Nintendo POW Block group chat, and one of the fellows, Ed, is not a fan of Majora's Mask because of the time mechanic. And I've heard that complaint before.
Yeah, so have I.
And for me personally, it's in my top 5 Zelda games because of the story, and I love the side quests.
Mine too.
The symbolism of just the darker themes is what about you? What do you love about that game?
Okay, we're gonna have to keep it a little bit simple, a little bit too simple here, because otherwise we're gonna just spend an hour and a half talking about Majora's Mask. But yeah, I'm just gonna have to agree with everything you just said. A lot of the symbolism is just insane, especially for a game that was rushed out pretty quick. I think it came out less than a year and a half after Ocarina of Time, which which took 7 years to develop. Am I right?
Something like that. It took a little while.
Yeah, so they released it just barely over a year afterwards. And sure, they reused most of the assets, and they only have 4 dungeons, which is really small for a Zelda game. But the amount of emotion they put into the game and the symbolism, that's why Majora's Mask is perhaps one of the most popular games for Zelda theories here 20 years later. And as my I think my channel helps testify that, because it's a 20-year-old game, but yet me just coming up with a more far-fetched and interesting idea, the internet just exploded my YouTube channel from nothing into now it's something I'm getting a little bit of spending money for.
That is awesome. Oh, I love hearing that. I love hearing people's creative endeavors reward them. I love hearing that they are rewarded for those, because I know you put a lot of work
Yeah,
to your craft, and I just that game is so
yeah.
good.
I mean, I personally disagree with the time mechanic, or sorry, the complaint about the time mechanic. I think it's a really unique feel because it makes Majora's Mask one of a kind.
Hmm.
It does make it feel not as much like a Zelda game, especially with that and the fact that it's in a totally different land, Termina. But I don't know. I'm not gonna try to go through and prove why I think Majora's Mask was all a dream, because I know that there's the super huge theory out there on the internet made by Matt Pat on the Game Theory channel
Hmm.
about Link being dead. I disagree with him being dead, and that Majora's Mask was all basically just a purgatory for Link. Because one of the most widely accepted theory out there is that the hero shade from Twilight Princess is the deceased hero of time who fully matured. So if he had descendants, I really hope it wasn't when he was when he was a 10-year-old.
I
And
hope.
I don't think that's physically possible either. So
Oh, those are some good points you bring up. I also always play the Song of Reverse Time to slow down time whenever I play
oh
Majora's
yeah.
Mask.
Like
That
I think
helps
it's
a
plenty of time.
lot.
Yeah, it's plenty of time. Gives you plenty of time to beat the dungeons. Well, I shouldn't say that, because when I was playing through, what's it called? The water dungeon, basically for
Hmm. Oh, at the Great
what's it called?
Bay, the Great Bay
Yeah, the Great Bay
Temple.
Temple. Great Bay Temple.
Hmm.
Because that was the first one I was trying to collect all of the stray fairies for the first time.
Oh,
I've since then gone back and collected the stray fairies for Snow Peak, but I actually don't think I ever did the one for Woodfall. But anyway, Great Bay Temple. I was going through doing all the stray fairies, and I
that,
didn't realize how much time had gone by because I had probably spent at least 2.5 hours, maybe 3 hours of real life time. I stayed up pretty late one night going through that temple. Then I had 5 minutes to get through the room with the boss door and defeat
oh
Gillick.
yeah.
And I died. Sorry, there's a 2-year-old that just came in the house and is squealing outside my door right now.
I assure you, do not be self-conscious about that, because a lot of the people we have on 1v1s have children or nieces, nephews, or animals, and I think it brings a little bit more personality and
Oh yeah, I mean,
humanity to videos.
yeah, everyone has a life.
I hope so.
Yeah, that's my
God.
cousin's. Yeah, there's my
Oh,
cousin's kid who just came over.
do you
Yeah,
play games with her?
I mean, she's 2 years old. Like, I don't play video games, but yeah, sometimes I go out there and just play with her.
Oh, I didn't
Well,
know if maybe there were some games that she showed some kind of interest in.
she's too young to comprehend anything just yet. Maybe when she turns like 4 or 5, I'll try introducing her to Pokemon. So I think I was probably like 6, maybe 7 when I first got into Pokemon. Sure, I had no idea what I was doing, but I was old enough where I was kind of able to read. I didn't really understand all the words or how to pronounce them all. I know when I was playing Pokemon as like a 6, 7-year-old, I would say Evolvation rather than Evolution. But yeah, she's found some of my A Link to the Past Game Boy cartridge and one of my old Pokemon Game Boy cartridges, and she for some reason has a really huge fascination with those Game Boy cartridges.
Huh. I
I
wonder.
did manage to get her to say A Link to the Past too, in her
Well,
little 2-year-old baby talk, so
oh,
I'm
that's
accomplished.
yes, you're doing your great uncle duties. That's awesome. That, so what? what other kinds of games do you enjoy? Are there other systems that you own as well
Well,
besides Nintendo systems?
I have only ever owned Nintendo systems. I've had a lot of friends who have had Xboxes, and you know what? Now that I think of it, I've never once played on a PlayStation. I've seen some of the PlayStation games, and honestly, I'd probably prefer a PlayStation over an Xbox. But all my friends growing up, and even currently, whenever we get together, it's almost always on Xbox. But now that some of my other friends are getting Switches, now that I bought one this year, uh, we've kind of shifted over to that, or we're playing Smash Bros. Or Mario Kart or some other random games. But in terms of other games I enjoy, yeah, I definitely grew up with the Pokemon series. Um, as I was getting older, I wasn't as big of a fan of some of the newer games that were coming out. I think Fifth Generation is the last one I ever played. I think this year on the Switch they came out with an Eighth Generation, but yeah, I haven't ever been interested in buying any of those. Just they seem to be getting a little too cheesy for me. I I'd have to say the fourth generation of Pokemon was definitely my favorite because that's the one I started with when I was younger. But I was also a really big fan of the originals. I had the remakes of the Kanto games on the Game Boy.
Oh, okay.
But if I had to pick one other Nintendo game that I would say is very nostalgic for me and that I remember playing through to this day, it's probably Paper Mario: The Thousand Year Door.
Yes, so good.
Yes. And it really breaks my heart to see how Nintendo ruined that series.
So have
Because,
you played some beyond Thousand Year Door?
yes, uh, I'd say the Super Paper Mario for the Wii, that had probably the best story out of all the Paper Mario games. I just wasn't as big of a fan of the actual gameplay mechanics.
Mm-hmm.
Because I don't know how to describe the combat mechanic from Thousand Year Door, but it's kind of like the turn-based combat.
Mm-hmm.
That was I thought that was just the best
It's
way
so
they could
good.
have possibly done it for a Paper Mario game. I don't Was the Nintendo 64 version like that?
Yeah,
I think it was
yeah,
something similar. I don't know why they made a shift away from that.
so good. It was.
That was the staple of the Paper Mario series. But I never played the one for the 3DS and Wii U. Or I don't know if it was for Wii U, but there was Sticker Star and Color Splash.
Yeah, yeah. Sticker stars for 3D. Yeah, 3DS. Yes,
Yeah,
and
I
then
never had a 3DS. Recently I've bought some of the 3DS Zelda games so I can say I played through them.
mhm.
And used my younger siblings' 3DS for that, but I never played Sticker Star or Color Splash. But just this last summer, they released the Origami King, which I bought. I'm probably only barely halfway through it at this point. I haven't touched it in several months now, but yeah, honestly,
It's different.
it's different. It's not the same. It's too easy. The story, it's. I'd have to go as far as say it's pretty boring, to be honest. Like
I can
it
see
has
that.
some charming moments to it, but at the same time, it's just not the same. The gameplay is nowhere near as fun. Doesn't challenge you.
Another friend and I. He's huge into RPGs. He made this point, and you might think this too. I hadn't thought of it this way. He said there's really no incentive to battle because usually with RPGs you gain experience. There's
Yeah.
something to be obtained to help you on your journey, but aside from some items and coins, you don't really get anything.
Well, and yeah, everything, all the collectibles are completely useless in the game too. Coins, there's just an overabundance of them. Like, what do I need to buy stuff for? Occasionally, I need to use a mushroom, but that's it. Like the items, they're pretty much there's only two different types of like items, I guess. Fire flowers. There may be other couple others, but they do the same thing. They just do more
Hmm.
damage. It's Whereas if you look back to the Thousand Year Door, you had tons and tons of different items, each with their own unique animations. They did something. Each one was vastly different than all the others. Well, some were similar. I guess there was like shooting stars and a thunder rage, which
Yeah,
had the
yeah.
same effects, but they did slightly different damage. But you get the point. There was still a vast variety of other items where you didn't feel like they were all just the same thing. And why bother collecting them, you know?
I loved the partner system too in Thousand Year Door
Oh
and
yeah,
the Paper Mario on the N64.
yeah. And every chapter in the Thousand Year Door too was just it was so charming. Each one was so unique,
I
and
know.
they had I know because I was pretty young. I think I was a second grader when I first got the game for my birthday, and at the time, like I played that game a lot, and I wouldn't say it was one of my favorite games growing probably back then, but now reflecting upon it and as was able to fully get through the game, that's when I would say it was probably one of the I'd say it's the best Mario game ever made.
Yeah.
I know there's some that love Super Mario Galaxy, and I can understand that, but I personally think Thousand Year Door is better.
A
But I
lot of
remember
people.
yeah, as a second grader, I think it was at least for a year, I was stuck after the second chapter. I just couldn't figure out what to do because they don't really give you any hints on where to go. And I know there was a fortune teller or something in the game,
Hmm.
but their hints, at least as a second grader, I didn't understand the hints they were giving me. Turns out, because you had to go. Who were the Delfino people? Like, I don't know if they were kind of like little gang leaders, but they seemed
Uh, it,
awesome.
wa- it was Rogueport. It was like this. I don't know if pirates is the right word, but you were at this kind
It's
of shady
shady, yeah.
port town.
Because there was this little entertainment center, or kind
Yes.
of like an arcade or something. But
Hmm.
but then there was also a shop right next to it, so you'd have to go through
Yeah.
to a shop, buy two items in a certain order, and then the shop owner would say, "Are you sure you want to buy those things? Are you sure you want to buy those things in that order?" And then I think they would give you a little quiz question. So if you
Hmm.
answer that correctly, they're like, "Oh, you're a member, sweet," and they would show you to this back door where you could go to the
Ah.
boss leader. I have very vivid memories of this game too. Even and I'll get to this in a second, but I even had dreams on how, like, giving me like revelations on how to beat these things. That happened two times too as a little.
What?
I,
That's
like
amazing.
I'm not even kidding. Like in my sleep as an elementary school kid, I would figure out and I guess brainstorm on how to beat this game.
Oh
But yeah,
gosh.
that's the point I was stuck because the boss wants you to find his daughter, and I could never do that. But apparently, the I think the port in Rougeport, where you first arrive at the very beginning of the game, that's where his daughter is hanging out with her boyfriend or fiance, something like that. But I just remember having a dream and like, well, what would just seeing like an island? Because I mean, I was like, okay, I guess that's like a romantic spot for couples, I guess, being around water and island. I don't know how. I guess I just put two and two together. I'm like, water. That's like the only spot with water or like beach-like area, even though it's a very ghetto-looking port. But I don't know. That was my thought process. It was through a dream, so it's obviously it was distorted. But
I think I think our childlike minds are so much more open to ideas and see things so much more vividly because as we get older, and I'm sure you're realizing now that you're in your 20s, your mind is cluttered with so many worries, concerns, responsibilities. But as a kid, you have that freedom to really focus.
oh yeah,
Now,
yeah. The
did
trail
you?
of thoughts back then were just like they seem so illogical, but they work, right?
Yeah, you're more not that we're not creative as adults, but as a kid, you just, that sense of wonder and exploration and everything makes sense. Everything's great.
Yeah, like now, as in like since I'm an engineering student, for me, everything my train of thought is always has to be logical and mathematical.
Hmm.
So for me, like the creative aspects are a little bit more unique, but that's how I also why getting to Zelda helps me try to like exercise that creative muscle a little bit more and try to analyze and understand the how everything connects to each other, even if it's overcomplicating everything, which I would used to like kind of like mock philosophy or like English classes because I feel
They
like
weren't your
okay,
thing, huh?
there's all that symbolism. I'm like
Hmm.
okay, like going through English class and high school, you have to write really long essays about the Great Gatsby and how the color green on the curtains or something is right. 2 pages on why the color green is that important. It has so much symbolic meaning. When ultimately, like, what's his name? Fitzgerald could have just simply decided to make the curtains green for absolutely no reason. But here's us writing pages on it. That's still honestly kind of my mindset, but it's a lot more fun applying stuff like that to Zelda or any other game franchise and overcomplicating that, because I don't know. I just say video games are a lot more interesting than 20-year-old novels. That's just me. Some people love classic novels. I'm not one of those people. And I think there's a lot more people that like video games nowadays than there are classic novelists.
That's all right, and that's valid. It's so I do have an English degree, but that doesn't mean every novel I had to
Oh
read and
yeah,
write about I loved. I was
yeah. I'm not trying to like discredit any like
oh no, not I
English
know.
majors or anything like that. But
I'm agreeing with you that there were some novels and short stories we had to read where I was like, you know,
it's just
I
mind-numbing.
don't understand this.
Yeah,
This is not, and it's not. Yeah, again, it's not to discredit those authors, but there's another fellow in the Boss Rush Games group. His name is David Lasby. He's an English teacher, so we've talked a lot because he also has an English degree, and he made some really good points. He actually tries to encourage their curriculum to include more modern text and more diverse text that students today can relate to a lot better, that have more meaning. And if they want to read the older classic text, yeah, please have at it. If you want to read some Hemingway, you want to read some, oh gosh, I'm drawing
Shakespeare.
Shakespeare, all of that. Like this, you heard it here first, guys. I'm not in love with everything from Shakespeare. And
Yeah.
I know, just take my degree away, throw it in the garbage. I don't care. I respect it, but they're not always my
Yeah.
favorite things.
Okay. Personally, I really enjoyed Lord of the Flies,
Oh
but
yeah,
that
that's a good one.
and, and I'd say I'm fortunate because I'm younger. I had Spark Notes going through high school English classes. I never really used. I couldn't use that for my college rhetoric class, but luckily I didn't have to do really much reading for that since it's rhetoric, not
Mhm.
literature. But yeah, Lord of the Flies was the only one in high school that I didn't. I have to admit, I did not just skip through and read the chapter summaries on SparkNotes.
I've used
So
Spark Notes
I
before.
actually read Lord of the Flies, and I actually enjoyed it. Whereas the other ones, I would read the first chapter or two and
Mhm.
just give up.
It's
So
it's really hard when you're not interested in the literature. There- that's why now that I have time to read what I want to read, if a book is not grabbing my attention after a few chapters, I move on because I don't have time.
yeah, if you're not enjoying it, why waste your time on it?
Exactly. And I do want to say that I think there is an art to engineering, though. I think it's in math and all of that. I think there is some creativity involved. There is logic, absolutely, but I think there's beauty to it as well.
Especially now, I think now that computer science is starting to become a huge thing. Not because I wouldn't say programming itself i- is artistic form, but the way you implement it is, because you have to being able to coordinate with like any if for in use of a video game, you have to be able to coordinate with gameplay mechanics and some of the to match some of the artistic character designs as well.
Yeah, that's a great point. And they all have to work together. I think all forms have to come together. Like with what you're doing, you have to do some research, you have to write the scripts, you have to know how to use the editing programs,
Yeah,
and they
because yeah, like as you were saying with the editing programs there, like I don't have too much experience with it, but as I've been making some video, I think my YouTube channel only has maybe about 12 videos or so right now because I've been trying to only do two a month so I don't overwhelm myself. It's just what I can afford to do with my schedule. But with each one, I'm trying to do trying to create new visual effects because I know my earlier ones it's just me grabbing cutscenes from the games and putting transitions between them. That's about it. Um, Now I've been trying to do a little bit more visual effects. I've been learning how to do some masking. I think on my more recent one that came out at the end of November, which I guess this will probably come out quite a ways after. But anyway, so I have this one where I was trying to do some video masking, so I can blend some of the sacred flames from Skyward Sword, have all three of them, while kind of trying to triangulate them on the screen. So like that actually took me a lot longer than I'd like to admit to figure out how to do, because it looks simple. You're just cutting the video frame into triangles and sticking them all on screen together, but it's not as easy as you would think it should be to do. But like at least it's no longer just me taking cutscenes, slapping them into the video editor, calling it good. So it's fun trying to figure out how to give visual. Man, I'm just not good with my voice. How to express myself right now, but can you help me out? What's the word I'm looking for?
Like
The visual cues, I guess, for like what I'm saying in my voiceover and putting that into video.
Like the timing.
Yeah, because sometimes I'm going to be talking about something in the game that you don't really have a cutscene that directly corresponds to. So sometimes if it's just slapping like a Triforce or something, even if it's not a scene with a Triforce. Poor example, because the Triforce appears a lot of the time, quite often in Zelda, but you know what I mean.
Yeah.
So,
And I think people, gosh, like you're saying you have 12 videos on there and you already have so many subscribers and you're able to earn a little bit of money from those videos.
yeah.
And so whenever you're watching a movie or you're reading a book or you're playing a video game, okay, maybe not Cyberpunk right now, poor people. Poor people with Cyberpunk right now. But we're watching a video on Zeldom's YouTube channel, you make it look easy. And I hope that people realize just how much work is involved for that final product to make it look easy.
Unfortunately, like at least a lot of my viewers or the people who are active in the community, that my brand new community, they are very supportive and very understanding. I think, guys, I was talking to you right before we started the recording here. I've been working on a part 2 for my Link's Loves video, which is now my second most popular video on my YouTube channel with almost 50,000 views. Maybe it's hit that already. I'm not quite sure at this moment. But
Fine.
it's been 4 months now since I've made the original one. I had to change how I was going to do it, because I kind of shoved Ocarina of Time, Skyward Sword, and whoa, 2-year-old screaming again. Ocarina of Time, Skyward Sword, and Twilight Princess all into one game. Plus all the other games I thought didn't really have too much content to give a reasonable ship to, like such as the original Zelda, Zelda 2, and so forth. But I realized going and trying to make a really long video for all the others, especially with Breath of the Wild, that's just not practical. And as I'm making this one, I just decided I'll split them all up, and I'm going to try to do one every month or so, because so many people have been commenting and requesting me I make follow-up videos for that. So everyone voted on Breath of the Wild and Age of Calamity for this next one. I've been making this for almost this last month now. It was supposed to come out on December 15th, and as of this recording, it is, late after that. Well, a few days after that.
Not too bad.
Yeah. I'm still have a long way to go with my editing. So, what was I trying to get to with this?
I think just the hard work that's involved.
Yeah, hard work. So, that's right. Because after, I think a day or two before the video was supposed to be up, and I was still only halfway through writing the script, I just posted on my community tab on my YouTube channel, apologizing to everyone that I'm well behind on my production schedule, and that this will probably have to be the one video for the month, since it's going to be almost an hour long. That's 3 times as much watch time as I had for November, so I guess that's fair. Everyone was very supportive.
I did. Yeah, I follow you on YouTube, and I did see in the community tab, and that's. I was wondering how people were going to react, because people can be mean.
Yeah, I'm lucky to have very supportive viewers. Like, they're going through, take your time, they're expressing how much they like, telling me take my time, how much they're looking forward to watching it, that kind of stuff. Almost everyone's been pretty positive so far. Like, I know, like YouTube, it can be notorious for some of the negative comments. I know I just have a profanity filter, which sometimes works, sometimes doesn't. but generally that helps filter out some of the negative comments, because if people are throwing F-bombs all the time, odds are it's not positive. Sometimes I've gone through, and if people are misspell an F-bomb, but if there's, even though they're using profanity, but they're still giving positive encouragement, sometimes I'll just allow it. I'll go through and manually allow it. But it is what it is. If there's just a negative comment on there, I'm just gonna remove it. I'm not even gonna finish reading it. Like,
Yeah.
no one has time for that.
That was going to be one of my questions with how do you handle any negativity, but it looks like, hey, I'm not even going to give you the time of day, you troll.
Yeah, like one, I haven't even there's hardly even been any of that on my channel. I think I can only remember like there ever being 3 or 4, and I think I've had almost 200,000 views now on my YouTube channel. So with that many views and only a couple of negative comments, I'll call that a pretty good rep. So
I would say so. And I have your channel pulled up, and for the links loves, it says 3 months ago, approximately 3 months ago, and 44,000 views.
yeah, let me pull up, because how YouTube works is it doesn't change from 3 to 4 months until the exact date the day has passed. So I think if I were to have uploaded that on the August 22nd or something like that, it won't change it won't say 4 months until after December 22nd. I don't know if that's the exact day. I have my YouTube channel pulled up right now as well, actually. So let's just out of curiosity, let me check the date right here. Yep, it is August 22nd. I am good.
Good job. It's almost Christmas now. That's awesome. And so the Links Loves video that you have up is the first one I ever saw, because David Geisler with Another Zelda podcast, he messaged me separately because you had reached out to him on Instagram about joining Another Zelda podcast as a blog writer. And we'll get into that in more detail. And he told me about Zeldom, so I went look it up. And and as you know, Another Zelda podcast, they do have an episode where they talk about the ladies in Link's life, kind of romances a little bit.
That's the same name.
Is it the same name?
I think it's also called Link's Loves. The
alliteration's too good.
I didn't even realize. I kind of just stole that name. I mean, it's not like it's a very, like.
Oh gosh, I'm sure
it's not an original name. Like it's
I don't think
self-explanatory.
I don't think David's gonna hunt you down.
Yeah, David's not gonna be too upset with me on that. But
no, and it's two different opinions. That's what I love. Like whenever people post on Twitter or I'm talking with them and they're saying things like, I know the market's saturated, but I really like to start a theory channel. Go for it. Your voice is just as important. You might be thinking of something that has never been thought of.
Yeah. Like we were just talking about Majora's Mask. The game's been out for 20 years, and I was still able to get a video that exploded on YouTube from a channel that had less than 50 subscribers, and it took me to 4K. It has 86K views now. It still has probably the highest traffic. The traffic's died down, clearly, because it's been out for several months. It's not at its peak anymore, but it's still a very high-performing video for something it was a lot of fun to make, and I think it was an interesting idea. It's not that theory, I don't think, has very solid grounds. It was just an interesting idea while I was making my dream theory. Like, what if the imp from The Legend of Majora's Mask, stated by Andrew's grandmother, wasn't the Skull Kid? Because it's heavily implied, and it's almost certain that it is the Skull Kid, but what if it wasn't? So I was like, what if it's actually this ancient figure who we know as Majora? And that got a lot of traction. A lot of people also pointed out what I was also thinking and why I thought it wasn't a very solid theory, and they called me out on that in the comments, which I've gone through and responded to. And they're not negative or anything. They're just saying, hey, they do it in a very polite way, saying, hey, this is what I disagree. I really enjoyed your video, but I think it's not the most sound theory, which I agree with them. And I've further discussed that with countless people. I've had hundreds of comments on that video at this point. So
That's incredible. And I love the civil discourse. I find the Zelda community is overwhelmingly positive and welcoming. And I love that. I love that
Yeah.
people can talk. People can have civil discussions because we all have different opinions and outlooks. And that's great. It helps us challenge ourselves. It helps us realize things. And we're all human. We forget things.
Yeah. I think having a very positive gaming community is something that's very difficult to pull off. Yeah, for people who I don't play like many like first person shooters like Call of Duty or anything, but I know those community. If you were to go and play the games, those communities can be very toxic. That's all I say. And I play a lot of Overwatch, which I did not own the game when it first came out, and it was when it was super popular. I hopped on the train after it was well out of the station, but it's still a game I play fairly often to this date, and there can be quite a bit of toxicity in it as well as, especially with the Blizzard company, people protesting and all that nonsense. But guys, it's just a game.
Yeah.
What more can we say?
It is literally a game. Have fun.
Yeah, have fun. If you're not having fun, why are you here? Just to yell at people? That's what politics is for, guys. Come on.
Let's see how. Yeah, we have enough of that
Yeah.
with that realm of life. I just want to have fun, and
Yeah, like that's the point of video games. We're trying to draw ourselves away from all the stuff that causes us stress. So,
I know it's. I love that the Zelda community is very welcoming, and just in general, I'm sure there are some negative people out there.
oh yeah.
It's the world, but just I don't know, like the theory channels I've watched, including yours. Overall, in the comment section, people are doing what you're describing. Hey, I really like this point of view, but I have to disagree. And it's fun. Let's have fun
Yeah.
discussion.
And yeah, one thing to point out, yeah, one thing that also goes along with your positivity discussion here with the Zelda community, I know with all the Zelda content creators who are trying to start, it can be pretty rough because since Zelda is a very popular series, if you're just trying to start a YouTube channel but you don't know exactly what to make, like what kind of content to produce, how to do video editing, anything like that, you are not alone. Like almost no one knows how to do this when they first start, and that's why when I first started and had that one video that we've been talking about become so popular, a lot of other smaller YouTube channels or Zelda YouTubers have reached out to me and saying, "Hey, how did you do that?" Like I came across your video, and I'm also a small YouTube producer, Zelda producer, and they were reaching out like, "Hey, you want to do a collaboration?" That kind of stuff. And one of the most notable ones is one guy I'm actually going to be doing a collab with at some point soon, called the Bread Pirate. I think his name is a play on the Dread Pirate Roberts from The Princess Bride, because his catchphrase at the end of all of his video is "Have fun storming the castle." So, but yeah, he does pretty much exclusively YouTube video. Sorry, of course he does YouTube videos, but Zelda content. He doesn't do theories. He does more of just like these for fun, like more like meme style videos. One of them, his most recent one, was ruining Wind Waker with memes, and it's just 6 minutes of just pure fun. But my point is, he reached out to me and he asked if I would like to help him, since I was probably one of the more larger and fastest growing YouTube channels that he's come across in a while. If I would like to help him start a like Discord server for the purpose of helping small YouTube content creators, which that now happens. I think now have at least 25, maybe over 30 small YouTube, not even exclusively YouTube creators. I think we have a couple others who do just like comics or artwork on Instagram, something like that. And I know I reached out to you guys because the Bread Pirate, who is the unofficial, he doesn't consider himself the owner, but he's the one who got the ball rolling. He told me like, "Hey, I heard you guys referenced, or you have contact with another Zelda podcast," because I guess he watched my Age of Calamity reaction, where I think I gave a shout out to AZP. And so he asked me if I could reach out to you or David and have a representative come into the server, which I'm not active on the Discord too much anyway. I don't really have too much time for Discord.
It's a lot.
It's not, yeah, it's not my thing. It's like you can only be on the internet so much and talk with people. So I get on there every now and then, and I know I invited you, especially David. I know he doesn't have the time for that.
Oh gosh, he doesn't use
yeah,
Discord.
hopefully at some point, like I don't know. I think one of them they might be interested in like reaching out to a whole bunch of different Zelda people as well. So maybe you guys might be getting contacted by someone from this channel for AZP. I'm not exactly sure. We'll have to see what happens there, but that's the point of the community. We're trying to see how we can reach out and increase the size of our Zelda content creator community as well.
I love
Because
it.
we're all enthusiasts here, but
I really hope that'd be awesome if once the world is normal again, I guess would be the word I want to use, we can all have just this big meetup somewhere.
oh yeah,
That would be incredible. I actually did meet David and Kate and Lizzie Nielsen, who was originally part of the team. I met them at the Video Game Summit in Chicago in July 2019. That was really fun. We did the Water Temples episode.
I remember listening to that episode.
Yeah, that was fun. So I would love to see that with a bunch of Zelda content creators.
Oh, imagine if there would be enough people just to create an exclusively Zelda convention, not just a general gaming convention, but just Zelda.
I wonder if we have to talk to Nintendo. I don't know. Nintendo's very crazy with a lot of copyright, but I understand why. So we have to.
Oh yeah, I understand why.
Yeah, I completely
people
understand.
are losing their marbles about like the online melee tournaments getting shut down. Like personally, I'm of the view. I'm like, guys, it's Nintendo's own content, like, and it's emulated too. Sure, it's illegal. I've seen people saying, well, sure, it's in their rights, but it's just immoral. I'm like, no, it's not. How is it immoral for them to claim the rights for their own software?
Well, let's reverse that. What if you created something and you worked hard on protecting this intellectual property and people were, stealing it, making
Yeah,
money off
sure it's outdated. It's over 15 years old, but still, like, if you're a musician, you put in all the work in writing the song. You think musicians shouldn't be paid? Like, okay, the song's been out a while. I could listen to it on Spotify. It's so easy to pirate it. So why not do it? They have concerts. They can do that, right? They're making more music. They can get money from that, right? No, they should continue getting money even from their older works. But that's just me. Who knows? Maybe I'll have some people who listen to the podcast who will get enraged by what we're saying here. Hopefully not. But
Come at me.
yeah,
Come at me. Come on. Come dox me. No, please don't.
at me. See how much we care.
No, please don't dox me. Just, yeah. Let me put it this way. I have cops in my neighborhood and sheriff's officers, so come on.
Oh, yeah. Yep. I have family friends that are cops. Greatest dudes I know. So
Come on over. Come try some craziness.
I mean, yeah, yeah. We're Zelda content creators. I never get political in my videos or anything like that. Like, that's not a place for a Zelda YouTube channel. So, but I know I've seen like one or two people in my Link's Loves video, like, who have complained about me not throwing like a gay ship into like my Link's Loves. I'm like, it's Skyward Sword. Like, there's a bromance between Link and Groose, but there's nothing romantic there. So I just don't understand. Like, it's a Zelda YouTube channel, guys. Let's not get political here. Like, I'm just doing an analysis of what there actually is content for.
Well, they shouldn't even take it up with you. That's more of the people who created, the creators. If they want to take issue with that, like, you reach out to the people who wrote the script. I mean, Andy's working with what's in the game.
Yeah.
And there's no stopping the people who are complaining. Go create a DeviantArt account and write some fan fiction. Create some art. Create your own videos.
Oh, yeah, and there's plenty of people who do that, and there's those communities for them. Like, I don't think I think Nintendo should listen to their community, but at the same time, they shouldn't let the community like control their artistic story writing. You know?
Yeah, it wouldn't be authentic, and it's
Yeah,
just I don't like people getting mad without a solution.
yeah. Like
Well,
last thing we want is for Nintendo to turn the Zelda franchise into a Netflix series.
oh Lord,
Yeah,
I just want it to be.
that would just be awful.
Oh gosh, so do you think that The Legend of Zelda would make a good actual either animated or live action movie or series?
Unpopular opinion, yes, if done properly. I think it would be very difficult to actually pull off, but if they could, it would be amazing. I know David on the ACP, he's gotten with TC Do It, and they did. How long was that episode? Maybe 2 hours on
That was
Studio
long.
Demands It. Yeah, it was a long one, but man, listening to them talk about how they would screenwrite an Ocarina of Time film, that that just got a lot of ideas rolling in my mind because you can easily we can all envision on what an Ocarina of Time movie would look like and how it should look like. Um, as far as live action goes, I think a live action would be cool, but I think that would bring the same problem as giving a voice to Link. Because I think there's some good actors that could pull up that could reasonably represent Link, but at the same time, you can't. It's hard to put an actual face to a character that was originally animated. I know like Disney's been doing that with a lot of they've been remaking a lot of their animated classics and turning them into live action. But doing that for Link, I just feel like since he's an avatar for the player, that is trying to solve two challenges that are very difficult to overcome at once. Because one, video game movies are most of the time unsuccessful, but I feel like now companies are finally trying to figure out finally learning how to make them better. If we let's take Detective Pikachu for example.
Hmm.
Like I was expecting Detective Pikachu to be terrible. I wasn't a big fan of how some of like the Pokemon were portrayed in the movie. Like Charizard, he was fluffy. He's a dragon. He's supposed to have scales, right? But it is what it is. Like the story was actually much better written than I think anyone would have expected, and the animation quality was still and CGI was still pretty darn good. But I think an animated Zelda movie would probably be the best way to go.
I do have a question for you regarding. Okay, so you're a little bit younger than I am. So I was in college when this came out, and you were like 8 years old. But did you ever see the April Fool's Zelda trailer from like 2008?
Um, is this for a movie?
Yeah, it was IGN on their YouTube channel and probably their website. They put out this trailer. It looked like a live action Zelda movie. It looked beautiful. People were freaking out. And at the end, it said coming April 1st, whatever year. And my boyfriend at the time was like, he watched me get all hyped about it. He said, look at the date they're putting release. Have you ever seen it? Does that ring a
No,
bell?
I don't. There's been a lot of things like that since. I know in 2015, I think there was a lot of rumors saying that there was going to be another live action TV series on Netflix. I
Mhm.
think there's actually another leak out there recently saying Netflix is going to be doing that again, but they're going to be starring Tom Holland as Link.
He's everywhere. He's just
I, I,
everywhere.
I love Tom Holland. He's a great actor, but he's still not my Link. I,
Those are some pretty big
they
shoes
would,
to.
yeah, they need to. They would also, if they're gonna do an Ocarina of Time one, they also need to get a much younger kid too, because like Link's 10 years old. Uh, That's why another reason I think it's gonna be hard to get like a very young actor, and then putting him and comparing him to Ganondorf and fighting all these monsters. It'll I think putting that into live action it'll look a little bit weirder.
Yeah, you don't want to be cheesy 90s CGI.
Yeah, because when you have a live action 10-year-old looking kid fighting Goma, this gigantic spider, I think doing that live action is just going to be too difficult to pull off and still look good. Whereas animation, it they can do some visual effects and have some slightly more unrealistic combat moves, but
Hmm.
still make it look good, you know? Um, and plus, for anyone who's seen the A Terrible Fate Majora's Mask animation by Ember Labs, that is like the perfect example of what a animated Zelda movie should look like. The CGI in that I think 4 or 5 minute animation is just outstanding.
Ember Labs.
Yeah, if you haven't seen it, Celeste, you need to go watch that right after we finish this podcast.
I might have seen it. Okay, it came out 4 years ago, 10 million views. It's quite possible I've seen it, and it's just I'm old and forget everything now.
Yeah, if
But
you have seen it before, you'll remember it as soon as it starts. There's a voice actor for the Happy Mask Salesman, the sound effects, the music in it. It's just so good.
Carlos with another Zelda podcast, he did write a blog post. You might have read it where he was talking about the pros and cons, like we're doing right now for animated versus
Oh
live
yeah,
action.
yeah. I think I did look at that.
He brought up some good points. Now I wonder, I think an animation could work well, like how Castlevania has been turned into an anime on
Oh yeah.
Netflix, if you get the right people. Because I know there are some people, probably not the people within this community, who are maybe not, they disregard anime as not being serious, or they think it's very frivolous, very ridiculous. But I don't know if you've watched the Castlevania anime.
No, I have a cousin that is very into anime. I'm personally not a
It's a
weeaboo
lot.
myself, as
That's
we like to
okay.
give that term, but
It
I'm just not a fan of it. But
I have to say, so I used to watch anime a little bit when I was in middle school, junior high, and I've kind of fallen off. I don't really keep up with it, but I don't know if this is going to even make sense. I kind of forget I'm watching an anime whenever I'm watching the Castlevania series, because it just, the voice acting is outstanding. So I think if given the right treatment, I think Zelda could do well. A series, not a. I don't think a one-off movie though. I think it would have to be a
no, okay.
series.
And I've a couple weeks back, I was doing some work listening to a Zelda album by an artist called Rosen, and he does full symphonic orchestrations and remasters of a lot of Zelda themes. Like
Ooh.
he mixes up, puts uses a lot of the Zelda melodies, but then half the track is completely original. Like it's it's whereas a lot of others Zelda musicians, it's obviously a Zelda theme. They kind of do their own instrumentations and slightly rearrange and add in their own riffs into it. But for the most part, it's just a like a remix of a Zelda theme. But this guy, he writes his own full orchestra. He basically, I don't know how he does it, but it seems like he writes his own songs, and then after he's written his own symphonic movement, he then figures out how to tie Zelda themes into it. Because he has some, one called Sins of Hyrule. Whew, that just combines a lot of themes from a bunch of different games. There's He has the best version of Ballad of the Goddess I've ever heard. He has like a full choir singing it. It's just beautiful. Then there's the later on, I think one of the later tracks is the Breath of the Wild trailer theme. So
Oh my
it's
God.
not the main Breath of the Wild theme, but I think it's literally just a remix of the music used in one of the first Breath of the Wild announcement trailers. Not the 2014 ones, but I think after uh, they finished giving Breath of the Wild the name, development's over, and it was one of the E3 announcements. Then there's another called Children of Termina. It's, if you go through, it just sounds like it's a full soundtrack for a movie. It it'll trigger a lot of emotion if you're a Zelda fan. I can promise you that.
I'm looking this up right now so I can listen to it.
Yeah. The point I'm trying to get with this is, if if there is a big enough budget to produce a Zelda animated film, so if they get a new John Williams, or heck, they could just get this guy Rosen, Brock Hewitt, or even some of the other people who have been doing. I think you recently had Aaron Grubb on, right? I
Yeah.
listened to that. He has some pretty good music as well. But I do think Rosen probably has the most professional sounding, and he should be a very rich musician. I have to give that to Rosen. His they sound like they're taken straight from a Lord of the Rings style movie.
Oh gosh.
And if you can imagine like a dwarf civilization from Lord of the Rings, his arrangement of the Deku Palace thing from Majora's Mask and Children of Termina, that is, I can words cannot describe just how nostalgic and beautiful that theme is.
Oh my god. 'Cause
But so just if you get like a Lord of the Rings director, give it the Lord of the Rings budget, get the John Williams of Zelda, I think you could have a very good Zelda movie. But
oh man, I would love it. And did you ever get to see the Ballad of the is it Ballad of the Goddess, the concert series a few years ago?
oh, the Symphony of the Goddess.
Symphony of the Goddesses.
I wish. I didn't know that was a thing until I think just like the beginning of this year. Like it was either late 2019 or early this year. Because I'd actually kind of taken a break. I didn't intend to take a break from Zelda. I kind of just stopped playing it for a while, and I came back to it. I think Thanksgiving 2019, I had picked up Twilight Princess again, which there's like I think there's a reason. Like I didn't intend to, but I kind of had just stopped playing Zelda for a while. Like that's kind of a more personal story, which if we want to, we can get into that. But
If you like that, I mean, whatever you're comfortable with.
yeah, but let's finish with the Symphony of the Goddess. So that's why I didn't really uh, know about that because I hadn't played Zelda. I think for like at least another year or two. Because I think they stopped the Symphony of the Goddess in 2017, 2018.
Something like that, because my boyfriend and I went in December 2017, and I think we lucked out because I think it ended like the next year, 2018.
Yeah, that's rough because I got Skyward Sword in 2014, so I definitely had the opportunity to if I had done a little bit of research. I used to listen to that CD, that 25th anniversary symphonic movement that came with the game. When I got my first car, I didn't have like Bluetooth. I didn't have Bluetooth or even an aux cable. I just had a CD player, so I would just I would burn my own CDs, but I also brought out that Zelda anniversary symphonic movement, and I would listen to that probably quite often. My cousin would mock me because I would really get into it, especially the Twilight Princess. Well, I loved that 10-minute track. My cousin would mock me for getting into it while I was driving, but not. Even though when I'm listening to like my hard rock or something, I kind of just sit there, just listening. I wouldn't really move, and she would mock me like for not really like for dancing or something in the car to a Zelda symphony instead of rock.
It's so good. It's so good.
Yeah. Man, Zelda music is just something else. We could talk about that forever.
Do you have a favorite? Okay, if you had to pick one out of all the games you've played and all the songs you've heard, do you have a favorite piece? If you had to pick one.
Well, there's so many I like. It's hard to pick a number one. Yeah. This is something that would probably take me a little bit of researching to decide if I had to pick number one. I'd have to have a list of all my favorites and skim through the list and probably like rate each one as I go. It would take me quite a bit of time to narrow down all of those choices.
I know.
I'm gonna here. Do you mind if I just list off a couple of my top picks from a couple different games, and I can probably give you a decision after that. Like I think I've already mentioned how Spirit Tracks is the one game I had when I was a little kid, but I wasn't really a Zelda fan. I didn't understand that it was a series at the time. But the Spirit Tracks title theme, when you're just in the main screen before you even press the start button, that theme, it's only about a minute long, but it's very emotional. And that's actually the theme I use for Zeldom for my intro and outro. And I'm actually paying one of my viewers who reached out to me because they are a composer. And so they're good. And I've struck a deal with them, and they're giving me a huge discount on running a remix of the Spirit Tracks theme, basically as my own custom-made Zeldom theme song. So I'll be having that here in just a couple weeks to start using in my videos, which I'm excited for, plus some new artwork. But that's probably one of my that Spirit Tracks theme, that would be one of my top candidates. Ballad of the Goddess, since Skyward Sword is what made me a Zelda fan. There's a lot of good songs from Skyward Sword. Honestly, I don't know if it's kind of like a easy way out, but I'd have to say the staff roll for Skyward Sword. That's one of my, because it has the Skyloft theme in that, Ballad of the Goddess, and a couple other different tracks from Skyward Sword mixed in there, plus the main Zelda theme. That is is probably the most nostalgic staff roll for me. Because I love how in the credits there they kind of give you a little bit of background and show little clips of Zelda's journey going through all the springs and training, basically to help show Zelda just wasn't useless during the entire time. She was through her own spiritual journey, which I personally enjoyed. Because I just hate it when I have to go through some of the older games and Zelda's just like Princess Peach. Like
the damsel in distress.
Yeah, the damsel in distress. Like Princess Peach is absolutely useless, which is sad to say, but that's just Mario.
Yeah, that's just the formula.
Yeah. Like I get kind of annoyed when there's like some extreme feminist push for Zelda where they want to completely replace Link or turn Link into Linkle. Like no thanks, but like Zelda needs to have her own strong narrative, which I think Breath of the Wild established pretty darn well. Others, Deku Palace, Majora's Mask. That's a top one.
So good.
And just to throw out a fourth one out there, Ilia's theme from Twilight Princess.
Oh yeah, beautiful.
Yeah, I don't know. I've always had even before I ever played Ocarina of Time or Majora's Mask. I watched videos. I've seen videos about Majora's Mask and Ocarina of Time well before, probably like 4 or 5 years before I ever played Ocarina. But I don't know. I always kind of had a thing for Malin, and like I loved her theme music as well. And so the fact that I don't think I noticed that Ilia's theme was basically just a string, just a prettier version of the Long Line Range song when I first played Twilight Princess, but I'd have to go through the fact. But now that I realize that connection there, it just gives that simple theme, that simple melody, a lot more meaning to me. And I've actually sounded that out on piano as well. Like it's just a soothing like thing to play. I've even played it for like my 2-year-old cousin who's over right now. Just like she was screaming her head off, and she loves coming over here and just pounding on my piano. So when it was her nap time and she just was not going down, I told my mom, bring her into the piano, and I just started playing that, and I let her just press some of the keys while I was playing it. But she went down to bed perfectly fine after that.
It's like a lullaby.
Yep. So very beautiful Zelda themes. They serve as a very good lullaby.
Oh, love it. I love it.
Yeah.
So many good songs. I know. I put you on the spot with that question because that's man. Like pick your favorite kid with that.
Yeah.
With the music.
I don't think I can pick out a number one favorite. Maybe I could if I were writing a video and I absolutely had to pick out a number one, but just being put on the spot like here, no, there's just too many.
That's okay. We shake it up over here with random questions. So you've talked about your channel with the theories and the explorations and these different ideas, and you've kind of talked about the future plans for your show. Is there anything else you'd like to share, either about what's currently on your channel or maybe some topics you'd like to delve into in the future?
Well, I know I have a Google Docs over here that's over 2 pages long, just bullet points of video ideas. It was initially just half a page when I started the channel, but every video I make, it gives me like at least three or four more ideas for another video. So I get way more ideas than I can actually afford to have the time to make the content for. If you give me a moment here, I can actually like pull up a list.
Sure.
Because on my YouTube, my most recent one, it's basically the power of the sacred flames and the Triforce. Because one of my earlier theories on the channel was about the Force in The Legend of Zelda, which I knew nothing about until I was reading through the Hyrule Historia. And what caught my attention was the reference of the Force, which, I mean, people can obviously just by the name realize that has something to do with the Triforce and Light Force and all the other words that have the word Force in it in the franchise, but it's not really clear how it all ties together. So that immediately sparked my interest. But reading through the Hyrule Historia, there was just it's kind of like it's the theory of everything of Zelda essentially. It ties everything together. And in that very first video, I basically used Star Wars to try to explain like how it plays a role in absolutely everything in the Zelda franchise. And I think that was only a 5-minute video. But basically, I started off by taking the Life Force referenced in the Phantom Hourglass game and said that's basically the Force is this energy that dwells in all living things. The amount of Force in each life form can vary. And I've been like refining this theory. I still have a lot of work to do, but because I've made 3 of them so far. The second one was exclusively about the Light Force from the Minish Cap, and I tied that to the goddess Hylia's divine power, because we know the golden goddesses have their own, well, I want to say their own force, but they created the force when they were creating Hyrule and left behind the Triforce, which the Triforce is what I mentioned in the more recent one, but the Light Force I think is because how do I put this? Hylia is not as powerful of a god as the 3 golden goddesses. She's more of an equivalent to Demise. They're gods of the world, but not the ultimate power in the universe. If you understand what I mean.
Yeah.
So she has great amount of power, but it's not infinite.
Yeah.
So what I'm saying, because what I asserted in that second video is basically she just was the being with the most amount of life force that was created in the world of Hyrule. And so that's kind of what made her the goddess, and she understood how to use that force for her own power. And I think, and the fact that I'm going to be getting this into my next video, but Demise also has kind of his own anti-force. Like there's a lot of theories about where Demise came from, which I'll have to get into, but we know, going back to Hylia, we know all of her descendants have their own power. Like Zelda, she has her own sacred power other than the Triforce of Wisdom. Because Breath of the Wild, there's the Stealing Power, I think Spirit Tracks, there's the Sacred Power of the Spirits, and in that game the Triforce doesn't appear at all. But she's able to call upon Tetra and use some kind of golden light, as we've seen. It's not the Triforce, so therefore we can assume that this is probably the Light Force mentioned in the Minish Cap, which is said to be run through the veins of the ladies of the royal family, which ties all the way down from Skyward Sword, Hylia, all the way down to Breath of the Wild Zelda. So that was my second video. And then the third one I developed was how the Triforce doesn't have necessarily its own power at all. Because what we may think is that the Triforce contains all of the Force, but I decided to take a step backwards and say that was actually the sacred flames from Skyward Sword. Link had to go through and imbue the goddess sword with each of the pure essences of each element of the Force. So like the Triforce, there's 3 different elements of the Triforce. I basically said there's different elements of the Force, each pertaining to one of the sacred flames, and that those are the pure embodiments of Force. The Force exists pretty much everywhere else in the universe, through every living creature, different objects, etc. But the Triforce isn't as much of a power as rather as a key on how to control that power. So basically, each piece of the Triforce can control that element of the Force.
Oh my gosh, I can't wait.
Well, that was my most recent video. which led me. I was about to go because before I made that one, left a community post on my channel, asked to get some ideas from some of my viewers, and there were two guys that just left these exceptional comments. I haven't played every Zelda game, but there's one guy that left me some information from the Oracle series, because apparently there's what are they called? There's Flames of the Dark Rites from the Oracle series.
I haven't played those either.
Yeah, neither have I, but they have a pretty good parallel to the Sacred Flames. I mean, the one for Courage I think is purple, but the other two are I think blue and red as well. So instead of green, it's purple. But what did he say? Because I think the flames are despair. I'd have to pull it up, but basically they're just corrupted versions of the three virtues of the Triforce.
Okay, that's
so
cool.
There's way too many parallels to go into there. And as I was writing that script, I was like, okay, this needs to be its video on its own. So the next one, I'm probably going to be doing what I'm going to call like the dark side of the Force.
Oh, I love it.
Zelda. Yep.
I love it.
Once again, another Star Wars directive. So I'm going to start going into Demise, because in that video I referenced the Force Gems, Sacred Flames, and Triforce, which are like physical embodiments of Force. Was the idea I was kind of meaning to go with it there. And then there's also Malice from Breath of the Wild, and there's Bellum from Phantom Hourglass, who sucks the life force from other beings. So I was going to go into another theory on how these demons are kind of like the anti-force. They either suck life force and convert it into their own different type of energy. And then I was going to use those dark flames of the Dark Rites from the Oracle games and basically go into how Demise could be basically the complete opposite from Hylia, because we've seen Lorule in A Link Between Worlds, which is literally the mirror world. But the thing is, it was just I would have to go way off topic in order to prove that Demise, or I'd basically have to go through and prove where Demise came from. And I wasn't ready to. I don't know enough about the Oracle series to go in and prove how that connects. Because one, I'm thinking Demise could be from Lorule, but I'd have to prove that. But then again, Oracle series takes place in a totally different place called like Labyrinth and Holodrum.
Yes.
I don't know where those flames of the Dark Rites are. I think I saw like a short snippet of a video where you go through like a warp portal that looks kind of like A Link to the Past, how you go to the Dark World. So I'm not sure how exactly that works. So if that chamber with the flames is still in one of those lands, because I think Labyrinth and Holodrum are technically just supposed to be on the same world as Hyrule, but they're just like adjacent continents. Whereas Lorule, it's a parallel dimension.
You've played A Link Between Worlds, right? No, you haven't.
Yes, I did over the summer. I rushed through it in one weekend. We were taking a road trip down to the beach with the family, and so I had just bought A Link Between Worlds for the 3DS, and my sister had played through it while I was playing A Link to the Past on the Game Boy.
Nice.
And
perfect games. Perfect.
Yeah.
So really together.
we literally just traded on the car ride. Like the week before, I was playing Link to the Past. She was doing Link Between Worlds, and she was telling me how easy A Link Between Worlds was. And so she beat the game, and I was telling her how hard I thought A Link to the Past was. It's probably not that hard now that I look back to it, but that was my first not my first. I had played the original Zelda before. I still haven't beaten it, but I got to Ganon's Castle in the first Zelda.
Gotcha.
I had that on Virtual Console on the Wii way back when, but after they shut down after my Wii broke and I had to get a new one, and they shut down the online store. Yeah, Reshop. Yeah, I couldn't get that anymore. So that was depressing. But now I have a Switch, so I have it again. I just haven't played it yet. Anyway, A Link Between Worlds, I beat it on the car ride home in basically 2 days. I probably got halfway through it there. I did make the mistake, however, since my sister had played through it, we had hero mode unlocked, where you take double damage, and I don't know if you deal less damage or what, but you basically just take double damage and come across hearts a lot less often. And I made the terrible idea to. She was telling me how easy the game was, so I started off in heroic mode, and there were some times where I just kept on dying, and I had to go to a boss 10 times. And
We've all been there.
you just respawn back at Link's house, and you have to travel all the way back to the dungeon, warp into the boss room, and 10 times. But I still managed to beat the game pretty darn quick. There's a lot, but I think I missed a lot of the side quests and mini games though, because I've seen a lot of content. There's also some pretty good music from A Link Between Worlds. They bring back a lot of some of like the Dark World theme from A Link to the Past, upgrade it. But I think also in the bar from Kakariko Village, there's a bard who will play you some. Who you can pay. I don't know if you have to pay them or not, but you can basically just as you progress through the game, you can unlock different songs for him to play. And so there's like there's a Ballad of the Goddess version played by this bard here at the bar, and a whole bunch of other miscellaneous Zelda themes that have nothing to do with A Link Between Worlds, but just from the little Easter eggs. I think they're little. I don't. What instrument? It's not an accordion. It's some other instrument you would expect from a bard.
Okay. So I'm thinking. I don't know if this is right, but I know, like in A Link to the Past, there's the flute boy.
Yeah.
So I'm trying to. It's been like 7 years since I have played this game. So okay, he has like a little lute.
Oh yeah.
Like okay, for a fee of 10 rupees, so you do have to pay him. He will play various songs alongside the flute boy. Oh, because he explains to Link that the child is like speaking to strangers.
Oh, is this Link Between Worlds you're talking about too?
Yes, I just looked him up on the Zelda Gamepedia. Yeah, it looks like he's holding a little mandolin, lute type guitar instrument.
Okay. Yeah, I think mandolin might be.
Could be.
I have a folder because I have all of each game's soundtracks here in my Zeldom folder. I'm not gonna pull them up. Like we're in the middle of a podcast here.
That's okay. I pull up stuff like that. I just looked up some information to help refresh my memory because I'm old. I just
Let's not go that far.
No, it's just it's if I haven't played it. So there are some Zelda games that I don't know if it's because I was younger and things stuck more with me, but I played them more. But some of these games, people will start talking to me, and I play the game, and I draw a blank.
Yeah.
They bring up a character.
I was just watching my buddy John, who helped me start Zeldom, and he's recently coming back to help me write it. He's writing a script for one of my videos right now, our upcoming ones, while I'm doing this Link's Loves video. But I was watching him do a randomizer of Ocarina of Time yesterday, and he's going and obviously since he randomized every dungeon item and such, so if you kill a gold Skulltula, you could get the fairy's bow, which I think yesterday he got like the bomb bag, and even the dungeon. So you go into the Deku tree, and it was the bottom of the well. So he had it so like only the child dungeons would be randomized, only the adult dungeons would be randomized together. But then Dodongo's Cavern was Jabu Jabu's belly, and so forth.
That is cool. Wow, I salute him.
Yeah, I remember I was watching him play through that, and my point is with this story is he was going through all these secrets. He could just placing a bomb in the middle of the floor in the middle of Lost Woods, and then one of those holes would appear with like one of the caves, and there'd be a gold Skulltula there. I didn't know these were a thing. I mean, sure, I've only played through Ocarina of Time like I guess 1.5 times, but still, it's crazy how even the stuff I did do in the game, I just played it like 8 months ago, and I have already forgotten about a lot of these things. So you can't be blamed for not remembering stuff from a game you played over 10 years ago. So
No, I've a lot of other information has gone into my head
yeah,
since
I mean,
then.
yeah, some of the games that you've played multiple times though, and played growing up, like for me, it was Paper Mario Thousand Year Door. Like that one, I still have there's a lot of things I probably don't remember about it, but I also have a lot of very vivid memories. Like I know I very vividly remember like the Glitz. I think it was the chapter 3 Glitzville, where you go up into the floating wrestling tournament in the sky, and you have to become the champion.
I love that
Yeah,
part.
that took me a
So
while. And I was sad too because it took me like a year or two as a kid to finally be able to get to that part. And then the chapter after that, I got stuck again for probably another several months until I had another dream of figure that revealed how to get past it. Do you remember like chapter 4 where it was the Twilight Town?
yes,
Very
that's where
creepy.
the
And
little
then
ghost
yeah,
girls.
that little ghost guy who has the
Vivian.
uh, oh yeah, her. But there's the villain who has the dorkiest name ever, Dupless.
Oh, yeah.
But then you have to get before you can actually go fight him. He just basically torments you and pops out of the sky. He's like, "Ha, like I'm just gonna," and then he challenges you to a fight, but you can't hurt him. The only way you can hurt him is if you know his name. But when you try to tell him his name, there's a P missing from your little letter keyboard. So you have to go back into the dungeon while he's not there and find a secret entrance to find the letter P in the chest. So you can spell out his name Dupless.
I'm glad.
That came
Again,
that, that came to me in a dream basically on how to get to that secret entrance.
oh, I love that.
So I remember I probably saw it, but while playing the game, but I just didn't put two and two together.
Amazing, because it's
Yeah,
been even longer since I've fully played this
yeah,
game.
we keep going back to that was New Door, but
It's
I mean
so good.
to be fair, it is a Mario game, but it basically is a Zelda format though, if you kind of think about it. The combat mechanic's different for the RPG, but there's still Zelda-like dungeons if you think about it.
Exactly. And on the Paper Mario fandom page, I have more credence to give to that. It says the idea of Dupless is taking the form of a darker version of Mario and using Mario's attacks is very similar to Dark Link.
Oh yeah, that's right. Because he scans you because the first fight you have with him, he turns into a copy of you, and then after you defeat him, he somehow swaps bodies with you. So then you're just this like purple shadowy figure, and then all your partners leave and join Dupless, even though he's always hunched over and looks like he's possessed. But apparently your partners are too stupid to realize that's not you. Anyway, but yeah, then you have to go through and get another partner, and then eventually confront him again. Like, oh, dang, you're right. That is basically Dark Link.
Thank you, Paper Mario Wiki. Well, we're gonna jump to another kind of like wrap it up topic.
Okay.
Okay, so with a about another Zelda podcast. So, what can you tell us? I mean, I know all the answers. I'm just joking. What can you tell us about your involvement with another Zelda podcast?
Hmm. Well, I haven't really done too much yet. I think it was August when I reached out to you guys. I started listening back in March. When I shortly after I got my new job at a warehouse to help pay for school, and they allow us to listen to music or a podcast, just have one earbud in while we're working. So I mean, music's great and all, but I figured I'll listen to podcasts, get some education. But I also started mixing in some Zelda podcasts because back then I had just recently gotten back into Zelda. A couple months prior, I bought my Switch, got Breath of the Wild, and so I was really in the Zelda. That's when I was really in my peak, getting back into the Zelda mood. And so I figured I'm gonna start watching more Zelda theories again, like I did in middle school before I like had played any of the Zelda games besides Skyward. So So I started listening to more Zelda theories, and I figured, you know what? I can't listen to those while I'm at work, so I'll look see if there's Zelda podcasts out there. So I just Googled best Zelda podcasts, and AZP is like top one on the list.
Wow.
So
That's awesome.
so yep, I was like, okay, well, I guess I'll start listening to that one. And at first, because I mean, at the time I was looking for more of Zelda theories and such, so I gave it the first episode. I'm like, okay, this seems like a decent podcast. I'm kind of looking for more theories rather than just conversation about Zelda. But with David and Kate, like, it just was super enjoyable. So the more I listened to it, I was like, you know what? It's not theories, but it still jars your creativity. And I know I had to, like, sometimes like sneak in a couple of the notes there and like just so I could remember and put a theory together in my mind, because sometimes they give me ideas and what to talk about, and which eventually that happened so much listening to David and Kate talk that I figured, you know what, I'm getting all these ideas for theories in my head. I gotta put this together somehow. So then I created Zeldom. And my first video came out in, I think, the end of June. And then a couple months later, in August, I reached out to David because I had become a little bit more interested in. I know with season 3 he was without the presence of Kate in the show. I know David was going through a little bit more work. I figured, you know, I kind of want to be part of this community, so I reached out to David instead of asked him if I could write a couple blogs or something for him. So and of course he directed me to you to get set up at that. And what was the first one? It was just that Age of Calamity reaction that happened in early September, right? Because I don't think I was going to be put into the schedule until right now with the one that just came out for the vacation spots. Yeah, the vacation spots. And I have another one that I'm actually that I have to turn into you here in just like less than 2 weeks. I have my topic picked out for that, but I may or may not have started writing that yet.
Yeah, I'm totally a teacher. I'm going to grade everybody.
Yep. Yeah. No, I totally know what I'm going to talk about, though. It won't take me long to put that together.
It's been enjoyable. I think we've all done a really good job of keeping the community going with not only Kate's hiatus, but also with COVID preventing David from traveling like he wanted to, because he went to see Shane at the beginning of the year before the world shut down, because he prefers in-person podcasts, which I understand.
Yeah, I understand that too.
But of course, it's more difficult now. But we've had some creative ways with. Did you participate in the quiz or just?
No, I wasn't. The quiz came out right before I reached out to David.
Okay, but you were on our Spooky Spots quiz.
Spooky Spots episode. Oh yeah, that was a fun one. I know I definitely went overboard on that one too with my 40-minute plus recording. With the mixture of the coons, like the coons, I think theirs was even longer, a little bit longer than mine. But to be fair, theirs had 2 people.
It was fun. You messaged our group chat. You were like, David, just my portion is 45 minutes.
Yeah. Like, we still have four other people to shove in there. This ain't going to be a 2-hour episode. I can re-record for you, which I ended up doing.
Did he end up doing like a little bonus with it?
Well, he was going to put. I know he put the Coons extended cut on the Patreon, but that's the thing, since I think my recording itself, just because I used Bandicam just to record my webcam, I don't know what was going on, but I think the bitrate it records with was by default super high, so I didn't realize like my file was like 8 gigabytes, 10 gigabytes, so it was just taking up. I have plenty of space here on my hard drive, but I have over 200 gigs taken or something from Zeldom, so I just figured I'd delete it after I sent it to David. But I guess, I don't know what happened, but I guess the file got corrupted and David lost it. So, I mean, no big deal. So he wasn't able to use that for the Patreon bonus, but it is what it is. It's really no big deal.
Oh,
I mean, I checked my recycle bin to see if it was still there, but I guess it was too big to temporarily save in the recycle bin. No big deal.
You're still
But
there. You're
yeah,
still
I know.
there.
I was
Episode.
yeah, I was just texting David, I think a couple weeks ago though. He was telling me some of his travel plans for after the COVID restrictions lift. 'Cause, man, Chicago, I guess or I guess Illinois in general is super strict right now.
Yeah.
If you go, I think even out of this city, if you were to even travel out of the city to visit someone, he would have to take a 2-week quarantine. Which, who can afford that? We have work lives, we have bills to pay.
That would be
Like,
difficult. And
yeah,
his job, has to be in person.
yeah, like, yeah, that would be a huge financial hit if you were to leave town just for a single podcast episode. So, understandable on there. But anyway, he was telling me I know he wants to come basically travel around the country and visit a lot of people for season 4, if he's given the chance to, of course.
Yes, that's his plan. He wants to go to see the Coons. He wants to see you. He wants to
Well,
see me.
yeah, the Shanes and Coons are like, well, I guess at least from my perspective, like Michigan, that's a few hour drive. If you were to come, like, because you're in Louisiana or something, correct? And I'm in Texas. Like that's a much bigger. You'd have to travel all around the country. That would be a huge investment for him.
I feel like he would probably knock out both of our episodes because we're a neighboring state.
Yeah, well, we're neighboring states, but Texas is Texas. When we go on a road trip, 7 hours of driving, and we're still in Texas. and then it isn't until so basically all of day 1 is driving across Texas. Then day 2 is going through New Mexico, Nevada to finally get to California whenever we go to visit family.
Oh my gosh. And then I'm in southern Louisiana. So he has to go all the way down.
Yeah. I'm near the Dallas area, so I mean, okay. I guess that'd kind of be a straighter line from like the Dallas Metroplex to Louisiana. But if it was down like in El Paso, that'd be a much longer trip.
I've been to Dallas once, and it was like an 8-hour drive. So yeah, that's still a long drive.
Yeah. We're like northeast Texas, so we're closer than Amarillo for sure.
Oh gosh. Oh my gosh.
Yeah, I remember that I had a cousin I had never met in Amarillo, Texas, and we met up with him during our last road trip to California. So we kind of took a little detour to Amarillo, but we didn't get there until like 6 p.m. and we had left, I think, at 5:30 in the morning. Like, we stopped for lunch and of course bathroom breaks, but man, it's a long drive.
It is, and I really, oh gosh, I hope. I guess it would be cheaper to drive, but that's such a long drive, baby.
Yeah, it's a long drive. My dad always complains. My dad always used to complain about the road trips being super long. I know after I got my license, he kind of forced me to drive for like 2 hours until we just down the interstate until we hit another bathroom. So, but because I guess he just got so sick of driving. Yeah, but hey, I mean, we had a little TV in the back of the van. For once, he was able to sit back and watch a movie, which he said was awesome. I mean, for us, that's what the entire road trip was like.
That's awesome.
I mean, I'm able to beat A Link Between Worlds an entire road trip, so.
That's why you were able to beat it, because you're going all the way to California. That's a long drive.
Actually, that one wasn't even to California. That one was this last summer. We went down to Corpus Christi.
Oh, okay.
Gulf of Mexico. So, yeah, I mean, that was still probably a 7-8 hour drive down to the coast.
It's long,
but
that's closer to me than you are to me.
Yep. Well, I mean, that's down south too, but yeah, that would probably still make it about equidistant though.
Gosh, I really hope that we can all help him out in person next year if he's
Yeah,
able to travel.
That'd be a lot of fun. I mean, hopefully I'll have my own apartment by then too, but we'll see. Hopefully.
Okay, well, I'm putting out good juju into the universe for you, Andy.
Yeah, I'm trying to get an internship here, like last last spring I was a finalist for this internship and scholarship program with the Department of Defense.
Ooh.
Um, I eventually wasn't chosen as a finalist, but then again, who knows? Maybe COVID impacted the decisions there, and they decided to tighten up on the budget. It's the government, so who knows for sure.
Hmm.
But I resubmitted my application. So the fact I was a finalist as a freshman, when I don't really have too much on my resume. I mean, this year I didn't really have too much either because COVID not got rid of all of the engineering competitions we had at school. It's all online classes, so yeah, online engineering, stupid. So, well, yeah, I'm hoping that everything gets back to normal pretty soon because I can't afford to take my upper level classes for engineering online. That would just be disastrous.
I really hope it.
But if I can get into that, I'll be set for school. Like, because that would pay me so much money. It'll pay full tuition and give me basically a small salary while I'm in school.
That would be.
I'm not going to give the exact numbers, but let's just say some people would be pretty jealous if I got accepted. So
that would be a big boon. That would be a big help.
And it's a guaranteed career as well. Like I wouldn't have to spend all that time going to internship fairs and looking for a job, especially because even though I go to a public university, it's still pretty competitive because we have a very high international population. We have people from Taiwan, India, China, because like we're definitely we have one of the probably biggest computer science programs in the state. I'm an electrical engineering major, but I started off as computer engineering. I might try to go back and try to get like a double degree because computer engineering, at least our degree plan, it only has like a 6-class difference from electrical engineering.
Oh.
You just drop a couple of electrical engineering courses, add in some computer science, and you just have less electives if you're in that degree. But I have more I think 2, maybe 3 free electives, like in my senior year. And I came in with a couple of AP credits, so I tested out Calculus 1, which was a mistake, physical mechanics, and then a government credit from AP scores. So I could be ahead, but I also had no programming experience, and for that degree, they expect you to have some knowledge, and I couldn't test out of the fundamentals class, so I had to take an extra programming class. So I'm one programming class behind where I'm supposed to be right now, but I have I'm a lot more credits ahead, so we'll see if I can pull that off. Because getting a computer science degree would also be a huge help.
Oh yeah, it would absolutely. That'd be incredible. It'd help you a lot in your career path, for sure. But please keep us updated on the internship and the scholarships, so that we can cheer you on.
Yeah. Well, initially, I think on our last meeting for ACP when you were helping us construct the blog schedule for 2021, I think Shane was reaching out because his work in Wisconsin was looking for a new electrical engineering intern.
Ooh.
I mean, because most engineering companies, they're looking for like junior, senior students. Because I mean, a sophomore engineering student is far different from an engineer. It takes a lot of practice and much more higher level physical knowledge to actually design something that works than tinker around with little circuits. And plus, so I think Shane was. So I applied there anyway, because Shane was telling me he would put in a good word, but and he said he thinks that they would have been willing to consider me for that. It's just that I'm from Texas, and they'll probably just get someone local. So
you never know.
It's always worth applying. Like who knows? But another reason I kind of think getting to that DoD program would be good is also it's a civilian position for the Department of Defense, government agency. Like one defense technology or military technology seems like it'd be a really cool thing to work on as an engineer. But also the government benefits are just so much better. More days off, especially if I want to keep doing Zeldom indefinitely, part-time. So once I get a big boy engineering job, just having knowing I will not ever be required or be asked to work more than 40 hours a week, and I'll have probably better time off than the private sector. That'd be good to know, so I can keep doing this little side gig for fun.
And an awesome retirement package.
Oh yeah, for sure. Oh yeah, for sure. I mean, I mean, for fun, like a senior year of high school, I already put $2,000 aside just to play with the in a Roth IRA, just to get some practice with the investment market. I haven't had the cash to put more into that yet, but it's been good. It's been good to see how that works, and plus with COVID, how it all plummeted. But now it's at least the market's has succeeded from where it was before COVID hit, which is I guess a good thing to hear.
I've been watching my IRA and my 401k, and I'm like, come on.
Like, do I need to temporarily withdraw that for now and then invest afterwards?
It looks like they're doing really well though, so I'm thankful for that.
Yeah, we'll see how long that lasts. Again, who knows? We could have another huge drop coming up soon, but I hope not. I hope not. But then again, I'm 20 years old. I just put in that small investment just to learn how this stuff works. I mean, also to make, because it's probably going to grow into something a lot bigger in the future. But I have plenty of time before I ever need to see that much. I'm just watching the numbers to see how it works.
It's good to start even with a little bit because of the compound interest. So
yeah. One day, like starting 4 years, if I had waited until after I graduate college, who knows? That could be like $40,000 lost.
Yeah, you don't know. The best time is now.
Well, yeah, I have an uncle he's not a stockbroker, but he does work with a lot of investment banking, and he gave me a good recommendation on an ETF and taught me a little bit more, because I was also taking a financial class in high school as an elective. That was my one class, my last semester of high school that wasn't an AP. I was taking 4 AP classes, and then I figured my 5th class I'll just have easy financial class. But I actually learned a lot from that. So I already knew a lot of the stuff ahead of time, and I had a cool teacher I spoke with after class a lot, and he taught me a lot about. He showed me some of his personal investments, which one I'm thankful for, because most people are not willing to show their actual financial status. But he was willing to go in and show me how the stuff worked, and I was able to. So I probably know a lot more about investments than I probably should, or most other people do know at my age. But yeah, it's good. It's good to know that. We're kind of getting way off topic of like gaming.
Okay. But no, that's you might give some people some good advice. So listen.
I mean, hopefully.
Yes, pay for your future self, everybody.
Guys, ETFs are basically just like mutual funds, but you buy them in shares, and you have to pay a much lower management fee most of the time. So
yes,
if you want a mutual fund, so easy way to diversify that portfolio, ETF, much lower management fee.
For sure.
Mine's been doing pretty good for me.
That's good. I'm glad to hear that. That's encouraging for everybody. Sure, But Andy, is there anything else you'd like to say about your podcast? And oh my gosh, I'm thinking about podcasts and your channel or another Zelda podcast or anything else that you'd like to
Not much besides go subscribe. Both Zeldom and another Zelda podcast. But I try to make my content as worthwhile as possible. I have some big plans coming up for my channel, and I know David's putting a lot of work into ACP. He's been pretty successful for quite a while now. I think sounds like once COVID's over, he has some very big plans as well, which will make ACP. I think it'll make it take off. To be honest, I think ACP's been growing pretty fast lately. I'm excited to see what he has in store, especially once he can start doing conventions again. Some of his plans are really exciting, but I'm not gonna. That's not my place to throw out there. That's his. So.
Teaser.
Yep.
Well, where can people find you if they want to watch your YouTube channel, if they want to follow you on any social media?
Well, like you just said, you can find Zeldom on YouTube. That'd just be youtube.com/c/Zeldom. I also have an Instagram, I think, and a Twitter. I'm not really ever on Twitter. I'm on Instagram. I get on there occasionally. I don't post too much, but anymore. I've been keeping myself busy. But if you want to go follow me on Twitter, I believe it's official Zeldom, and then on Instagram it's official_Zeldom.
Yes, that's right.
I'm not too big on social media or the Discords. I'll eventually be getting a Discord for Zeldom exclusively for all my members out there, but I'm not a big Discord guru, and it takes a lot of work to set those up. So that'll be coming out, and I'll announce that on my YouTube whenever that's ready.
Well, thank you so much, Andy, for taking time out of your day to share your story.
Yeah, thanks for having me on. It was a blast, and it's crazy to imagine it's already been 2 hours.
Oh, it's fun. See, I told you it's just a nice, fun conversation.
Oh, yeah. It went by pretty darn fast.
Well,
That's what happens when we talk about Zelda and Paper Mario. What else can I say?
That's where the time flies when you're having fun with video.
Oh yeah.
Well, everybody, thank you so much for listening. You can find Boss Rush Games wherever you listen to your podcast. You can also find us on YouTube if you want to see our faces. But until next time, bye, everybody.
Bye.